Hello and welcome to the 2025 eShopper Barometer live event. Thank you for joining us from all over the world. We are coming to you live from Paris, and for the first time in the making of this webinar, we have a live audience. Hello everybody. Hi. It's great to have you. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Benjamin Dier. I'm delighted to be your host, and this is the place to be if you want to understand the dynamic of e-commerce in Europe in a nutshell. For the next 45 minutes, we are going to unveil the 2025 eShopper Barometer results. What are the key findings? What are the latest trends? This is the questions we'll be answering with my guests here on set, Carmen Cureu and Hervé Crochet. Thank you so much for being here to the both of you. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Carmen, you're Market Research Director at Geopost. As an expert in market research, you manage strategic studies for the group, such as the eShopper Barometer, brand awareness, white papers, or market share surveys. Thank you for being here. Hervé, you're Head of Sales for Geopost. You closely follow the trends to feed Geopost strategy and services portfolio, as well as develop win-win partnerships with global accounts. So welcome to the show. I have a lot of questions to ask you, of course, but before we get started, let me tell you that all of you watching can send in your questions through the chat at any moment during this program, and we will take the final minutes to answer the questions you've shared with us through the chat, whether you're watching online or you're on set with us. So feel free to remember your questions and share them with us through the live, and we will answer all of them for the time we have, okay? So let's begin with this program. First of all, talking about this study, can you tell us more about the scope and the methodology you used?
Gladly, Benjamin. I think some of you may already know the eShopper Barometer is a survey that we have been running at Geopost since 2016, so almost a decade now of insights on the evolution of e-commerce throughout Europe. We address 22 European countries, and in these countries we have conversations with e-shoppers aged 18 and more. We had conversations this year with more than 30,000 e-shoppers across Europe, making the survey among the most robust ones in the world. It's a survey that is totally neutral. It's not about us. It's not about our competitors. It's not about specific web shops. It's purely focusing on the attitudes, habits, and expectations of e-shoppers when they purchase online.
Thank you. What are the main changes between this study and the one published in 2023?
First of all, it's the sample size. We had conversations with more than 30,000 e-shoppers this year. In previous years, we were discussing with around 24,000 e-shoppers. We did it not just because size matters, of course, but because we wanted to have, beyond insights on e-shoppers in general, a deeper understanding of the habits and expectations of the younger ones, the Gen Z. Equally, we addressed a few more topics than in past years, but I will not tell you more about these right now. Please stay tuned, and we'll unveil them as we go through the presentation.
Absolutely, no spoiler. Thank you very much. Let's get into the specifics of this barometer and explore the e-commerce landscape in our first chapter. Would you say is the overview you could share on the evolution of e-shopping trends over the past years, Carmen?
I would say 2025 is the year of maturity of e-commerce in Europe. We can no longer talk about just the rise of e-commerce, but what we see it's normalization in a way in 2025. This year, we have 77% of Europeans engaging in e-commerce. And beyond this slight increase of e-shoppers since the past years, what we see this year is the frequency that is growing in almost a spectacular way, I would say. Since 2023, we gained 4 points in terms of the number of regular e-shoppers, those who buy on a monthly basis. So beyond just an increase of the e-shopper population, I think we are talking here about a more profound behavioral change. We have more e-shoppers who are deeply rooted in the e-commerce space. for their routine purchases, not just for occasional cases. So something that is happening, and throughout this presentation, we will look at the impact that this newly found maturity of e-commerce has on the entire ecosystem and how we can, both us, carriers, and the e-tailers, most welcomely, let's say, embrace the changing habits and expectations of our consumers.
So yeah, you mentioned it's an important increase. How does that translate in terms of volumes?
Well, at the level of volumes, it's unsurprising, I would say, to see that the volumes per e-shopper are stable. Economic cautious is very much in the air still in Europe, in all countries. So when we look at the number of purchases at an individual level, we are almost at the same levels as in 2023, slightly more than 5 times per month for regular e-shoppers, and slightly more than 7 times per month for the aficionados, so for the heavy e-shoppers. Again, momentum coming not that necessarily from a frenzy of purchases like we saw in COVID times, but from a deeply rooted habit for more and more e-shoppers into the e-commerce space.
Thank you. Hervé?
Yeah, and if we take a broader view, e-commerce in Europe confirms a positive trend since 2023. If we look at France, last year in 2024, e-commerce of online goods grew by 6%, when it was decreasing by 0.7% in 2023. If we look at Germany now, the latest results of BEVH, so the German Online Association, shows that Q2 25 online grew by 3.8%, after 3.2% during Q1. And if we look at the largest market in Europe, UK, the forecasts show that the growth of e-commerce should be by 3.6%. If I take a view much more on the Geopost side, we, as a carrier, which is a leading carrier into Europe, I believe that our activity reflects the e-commerce evolution. And in 2024, the growth of Geopost grew twice as much as in 2023. And more recently, in 2025, after a weaker growth during the first 2 months, we see from June an acceleration of B2C and C2C deliveries.
Could you expand on what type of items e-shoppers are buying online?
Well, I would say they buy almost everything online. Of course, online is now part of their routines, so a regular shopping channel. Top 3 categories, exactly the same as in past years. We have shoes, we have fashion, beauty, and healthcare. But amongst the other categories, there's a very strong momentum that we see for healthy products, fresh food, groceries, and also increasingly presence of the home decoration in the e-commerce space. If I look at the level of the countries, fresh food and groceries has been a category that is in the top 3 in the UK for a few years now. But we see this category growing in countries other than the UK. France, we have the Netherlands, and we also have Spain, seeing quite strong growths for the penetration of this category. And if I think about the home furniture and decoration, there we see quite some growth in Italy.
Hervé?
Yeah, and at Geopost we see, this growth on the shoe market segment, but especially much more in the sportswear, which is extremely dynamic, while the online fashion garments is lagging behind. If we talk about beauty we see quite a strong dynamic for the companies which are focused on value-based pricing. And when it comes to healthcare, especially on the pharmacy, we see that pharmacy has a share of online sales which is lower, so they have quite a momentum. And also we see the legislation being much more, less difficult for those companies to sell, so that explains part of the growth. When we look at food, fresh food, grocery, we have temperature control services in 7 countries. And the first semester 2025, we see that the food segment is growing by 11%. So again, confirming the growth that we see into the survey we have. And when it comes to small furniture, it's interesting to see that this market is quite struggling at the moment, but we don't have to forget that a lot of sales are through the physical store. And online, which represents 10 to 20% of the total sales, depending on the countries, has quite some room to grow. And also in the economical context we are in, actually people are looking for having a better value for money, so their tendency to go online is growing. And we see many companies in this segment of small furniture which try also to expand in new markets, which also again confirms these positive figures we see in our results.
Thanks. Of course, e-shopping doesn't have boundaries or borders. It's global. How does that reflect on the e-shoppers' behaviors?
Well, I would say this year we have more and more e-shoppers going global, more than ever global. We are reaching 63% of European e-shoppers who tell us that they purchased in a country that is different from their own. Basically, what they look for nowadays when they purchase in another country is the same thing that they were looking for back in the days, namely products that are not available domestically, or even better deals than what they can have locally. With the experience that they now have in terms of e-shopping, I think it also helped to develop a level of trust and confidence into buying on websites that are not domestic. They switch from one to the other very easily. And I think I can already see your next question coming, Benjamin, the countries where they buy. First of all, we have China, by far the leading country of origin for cross-border purchases, followed by the US. Unsurprisingly, the share of purchases from the US is slightly going down already, presumably in connection with the new regulations in terms of trade and tariff.
Yeah, now Geopost can only confirm the surge of flows from China that we see for the last 2 years. But more importantly, what we see in Europe is that more and more online retailers or brands are going to more and more markets. And we see in our results that the 2C deliveries cross-border are growing much faster than the domestic ones.
What would you say are the key drivers for e-shoppers?
There are definitely many drivers, and we'll look upon all later on, but economic caution still in the air equals consumer caution. And of course, consumers being more and more regarding and mindful of their budget means that the price is increasingly considered as the first driver of decision-making in the process of buying, not only online, but especially online. We have an increase of 6 points, which is quite significant.
Thanks, Carmen. That's it for the overview of the e-commerce landscape. Let's now focus on our second chapter. So Carmen, 2 years ago during this very same webinar, you mentioned how secondhand was a major trend worth keeping an eye on. How have C2C online purchases evolved since 2023?
Well, Benjamin, I must confess, we were right. It was definitely a trend to watch. If I had to choose just one word to qualify C2C e-commerce in 2025, that would be robust. And I think the figures speak for themselves. 72% of European e-shoppers either buy or sell on C2C platforms. But beyond just presence on these platforms, I think, again, the frequency and the increase of frequency is amazing. We have now around 50%, so half of our European e-shoppers, who purchase on a monthly basis on C2C platforms. Again, something very profound in terms of changes of behavior that we see here.
So yeah, that's significant. Is it different from one country to the other?
This C2C type of purchase is favored in all countries in Europe, but there will be always countries where you have higher momentum. And among these, I would mention the UK, Germany, Czech Republic, Croatia. So you see, it spans from Western to Eastern Europe, throughout Central Europe, of course. One country I would have a special mention for, that is Poland. It is the highest increase in terms of frequency of purchase and the highest number of purchases made on a yearly basis on C2C platforms. So to keep an eye on for next time we meet.
Hervé, what's your take on these numbers and this trend?
Yeah, to confirm, yeah, I mean, most countries we see that there's one purchase per month on C2C platforms, and we've seen through clients, especially on the C2C specialists, expanding over more countries across Europe, and also what we see from those non-C2C specialists embedding on their website C2C features. So that explains, as I think, part of this momentum we can see actually across Europe.
So more and more transactions overall. Does that entail more and more e-sellers online?
Yes, definitely it does. The specificity of C2C platforms is that for people to be able to buy, other people need to come with the offer. And this year we wanted to have a zoom on these e-shoppers who sell on C2C platforms. We have today more sellers than buyers actually on C2C platforms. So we see a kind of transformation of e-shoppers into almost business owners. We have regular e-shoppers selling almost 16 times a year, and we hit as high as 22 for the aficionados. So definitely, again, another trend to be watched for in the future, because e-shoppers become also entrepreneurs on the C2C platforms.
Well, let's talk some more about it, and let's step into the shoes of a C2C seller and listen to Nadia, who will tell us how she became an active seller online. Take a look.
I started to sell when I had my daughter. I added all the clothes that were too small for her and that I didn't want to keep. I sell mainly children clothes, so dresses, pants, t-shirts, stuff that she's not wearing anymore. And sometimes I put clothes that belongs to me and that I'm sure I don't want to wear anymore. Yes, I do have a closet with around 60 items, and I usually sell 2 to 3 items per month. I do like to sell on C2C platform because then I get money on my digital wallet and I can buy again.
Hervé, what's your reaction to this testimony?
I think actually that the fact that consumers are selling more and more online is to be watched over time, especially when we know that the consumer spend is not expandable. So the fact that they buy more C2C on C2C and sell on C2C has certainly an impact on the physical and online purchases. So I think this should be included into the retailers and brand strategy.
Thank you very much. Well, now let's take a moment to discuss one of the targets that this study has put under the spotlight. Let's talk about Gen Z. So, what exactly is the profile of Gen Z e-shoppers?
Well, let me start by saying I absolutely love this zoom on Gen Z, because I think they are definitely reshaping e-commerce overall. And how can they do that? Basically, they are very, very active online, not just in terms of presence, but also in terms of purchases. We looked at how much they buy, and they buy almost 61 times per year. That's more than one purchase per week. And if you look at the other age groups, definitely much more than any other generation. To put it a bit differently, if every e-shopper nowadays were a Gen Z, the e-commerce market in Europe would be automatically 30% bigger, wow, just because of the momentum that Gen Z bring into the game.
Wow, that's impressive. Okay, so we can understand them, you studied them, we cannot pretend we're one of them. Let's face it, we're a bit too old for that. So, so we've asked someone who is a member of the Gen Z generation to tell us how she feels about this, and she's one of your colleagues. Her name is Ludmila, and she's going to tell us about how she purchases online. Take a look.
I would say I definitely go a lot on social media. So for the commercials, I'm aware of the brands and different things via the social medias, and also a lot through the influencers. And I do rely a lot also on the comment section and the communities, for they are a very nice way of knowing if it's a reliable brand, if the quality is nice, if the delivery services is nice also. So I definitely do rely on social media a lot for that. Also, second way I shop online, it's going through the second-hand platforms. It's definitely something I use a lot. It's very accessible. You can buy anything, you can sell anything. I don't have any seller skills, for example, and I do sell a lot of things on it. It's cheaper, so it's better for students, for example. And also regarding the environment, I would say it's better for that too. So I spend a lot of time on social medias. I had my screen time this morning and it's awful. I am mainly spending time on Instagram, Snapchat and TikTok also. The main reason would be it's not a smart use, to be honest. It's more to relax, to have fun content, to also talk with my friends. So yeah, mainly that. The first option I use a lot are lockers, mainly because they are very convenient. They open early, they close late, you can go anytime you want, you don't need to be home for that. When I come back from work or university, I can go pick my parcel. So yes, definitely for that reason. And the second option I do use a lot too, but for different reasons, would be the home delivery. It's mainly when I am waiting for expensive parcels, for example, or parcels I know I need to be here and to receive it in a hand-to-hand way. So yes, the home delivery would be more for that reason.
So that's it for Ludmila. So she's a Gen Z, and we think about Gen Z, we think about students, young adults. What kind of resources do they have that allows them to buy so much online?
Well, basically, like Ludmila, 82% of them already mentioned that they have a regular source of income. So they can afford to buy online. On top, they also benefit from the strong support of their parents. We have a third of Gen Z e-shoppers who tell us they still live with their parents. I don't know if it's the case for you.
Yes.
Maybe you have a Gen Z still at home. And on top, again, we have another third who tell us that they benefit from other types of financial support from their parents. So there's at least dual revenue streams for the Gen Z that make it possible for them to buy quite a lot online, as much as 61 purchases a year. In terms also of gender, I think Ludmila was the perfect illustration of Gen Z, because we have 60% of our Gen Z e-shoppers who tell us that they are women. It's the same when we were looking back at 2019 in the e-shopper Barometer. E-shoppers were generally much more women than men. Then with COVID came a kind of a balance, not full parity, but just a balance. With more men coming onto the online space for shopping, we'll see if Gen Z will also get to that kind of balance, or if we remain on something that will be more skewed towards women. And if we look at the categories they buy, top three, same top three as for the other generations: fashion, shoes, beauty, and healthcare. The other categories, remember, they still live with their parents, so fresh food, groceries, they don't make it into the top 5 of the Gen Z. Those are the purchases that are made by the parents. But we do have accessories and jewelry coming forth in the ranking here. And of course, growing, there's an ever-growing need for those kinds of products from our youngsters.
So apart from the fact that they spend their parents' money around 60 times a year online, what are the other key characteristics of these Gen Z shoppers?
Well, it's really interesting to look at them because we have a blend, I would say, of more legacy values that are also valid for us, the older e-shoppers, like the importance of cost effectiveness. They do look for the best price ever. Value for money is something that they look for online. They also feel reassured by physical retail. They also are, like us, probably more favorable for buying on websites that also have a physical presence. With these, let's say, traditional values come also emerging habits that are shaped by their digital culture. And we've seen it with Ludmila. The importance of the tribe, the sense of belonging to a community is really there. They go to that tribe and that community for advice, for information, and that orients their purchases. And they also feed back to the community after every single experience that they had. Also, with fun and entertainment. They need this. So I would say the convergence of these values creates big challenges for everyone, for all types of brands, because to answer the needs of Gen Z e-shoppers and consumers more generally, we need to bring at the same time tradition and tech. We need to bring cost effectiveness and also thrill. All of this embodied in a seamless experience. Easy, right?
You mentioned fun, entertainment. I believe it goes beyond than that even. Do you agree, Hervé?
Actually, after the COVID, there was a lot of talks, exchanges on the retailer strategy to attract consumers back to the stores. And emotion was a key element. Bring emotion into the purchase in a physical store. And what I see here with the Gen Z, that they are also asking for this emotion, fun part. So what we call unified commerce, buying from physical store and online as a common denominator, which is emotion. So this is why I think there is it's an interesting one that Gen Z is also looking for that. So emotion should be part of this online and offline retail strategy.
Ludmila mentioned the amount of time she spends online on social media, social platforms. What's the impact of social media today on e-shopping?
It's just tremendous, if I may. It's not that Gen Z were raised with social media, they were born with it. Therefore, it's part of their daily routines, of their daily habits. Therefore, integrating social media into their purchase journey was done like really easily without a learning curve. A vast majority use social media for shopping inspiration. It's their window shopping, definitely. It's where they know, where they learn, what needs to be bought to be trendy, etc., etc. So definitely a big, big impact.
You said they use it for inspiration, for content, for fun. Does it translate to actual sales? Does it convert?
Definitely it does. We have today 2/3 of our Gen Z e-shoppers who, after using social media, will buy from a social media experience. And if we go and look at the social platforms in particular, I'm going backwards, sorry, I will go forward for the people who are in the room. If we look at the specific platforms, we see that we have a great increase of popularity of TikTok and Pinterest, definitely, but beyond this, I think what is remarkable, it's the power of these media to create conversion. 41% of Gen Z e-shoppers who go on Instagram and on TikTok will buy from these platforms. And 33% of Gen Z e-shoppers who go on Pinterest will buy from Pinterest. So definitely something really interesting in terms of conversion rates.
And if I may add, it's true that I believe that social platforms really see the benefit of social commerce. And the two examples we see on TikTok and Pinterest, TikTok has embarked into social commerce into Europe in 2023 in the UK, then in Spain in December 2024, and much more recently, 2025, in Germany, France, and Italy. And this is why we see this uplift into the usage. And regarding Pinterest, it's a much more recent move. They have embarked into some features developments with Pinterest Stories in 2025, and also have developed an app-in purchase, meaning that if you want to buy some goods within Pinterest, you stay within the environment of Pinterest, and you're not redirected out of Pinterest. So those social media really see all the benefits of social commerce to keep the consumers within their environment as much as possible.
Thank you, Hervé. Remember, you can send in your questions to our speakers through the chat at any moment. Thank you. We're going to move on to our next chapter and review the criteria of a flawless purchase journey online. So this study also covers the need and expectation of e-shoppers overall. What are they looking for today, and what's the evolution over the past 2 years?
Well, they look for lots of things, but the first thing to note is the fact that in terms of perception of ease of buying online, we are still going down. What does this mean? It means that we have slightly more e-shoppers who believe that buying online requires a higher effort. Definitely not because the process of buying online is more complicated today compared to 1 or 2 years ago, but most likely because of the increasing expectations that e-shoppers have. We have more and more things that matter for the purchase experience, so much so that we reach today 19 criteria that are considered important by e-shoppers when they purchase online. And these criteria span from fast purchase, so it's all about speed, to the possibility of using a digital wallet, to having live chatbot support online. And when I mention these criteria, I think you probably already make the connection with Gen Z. Definitely these are things that they are bringing into the game. And they make the e-commerce experience move definitely from what used to be a very transactional process, you pay online and then you receive a parcel, to something that resembles more and more to a truly 360 experience.
What are the main pain points that these e-shoppers encounter and that may prevent them from buying online?
Well, if we look at what they expect, definitely if we look in a mirror, we see the friction point that they will identify. Again, it's all about speed. Whatever makes them go slow in terms of their own perception in the purchase journey will be something that they will not like. So too many steps before finalizing the checkout is definitely a pain point. Also, not having immediately the support they need when they need it, so it needs to be instantly present, is clearly a pain point.
I understand that, listening to you, that customer service is essential, am I correct?
Yes, you are, Benjamin. And this is the reason why we wanted to deep dive on this topic this year. And we discovered that 77% of European e-shoppers consider that having easy access to customer support is mandatory for them to have a fluid experience. Now, if all generations agree on the importance of customer support, when we look at how they want to get that support, this is where we see differences per generation. X generation boomers, I'm looking again at us, we are much more fond of human contact, and so we still expect us and the other, our fellow shoppers of the same generations, we expect to have a phone as a media to reach out for customer support. When we look at Gen Z, basically, they want to keep the digital experience almost purely digital. Therefore, they tell us that they want to have chat support live, of course, because it needs to happen when they need it and not later on. And they also expect to have support from the sellers on social media, which makes social media a playground where brands can engage in a 360 experience with the e-shoppers. They are there and they expect to discover the product, to buy the product, and also to have the customer service on social media.
Okay, so let's imagine no pain points, everything goes smoothly, we buy online, we get it, and it doesn't fit, and we have to return it. That's a pain point. What part does it play in the customer experience, customer journey overall?
Well, first of all, returns are a natural part of the experience. We also return when we buy in physical stores. It happens. With the maturity of e-commerce these days comes also a kind of normalization of the returns. Basically, returns are increasing, but at a lower pace than in previous years. 2 points increase over the past 3 years, when we were talking about 5 and more points of increase in previous times. Of course, it's not the easiest process, and e-shoppers tell us so. The things that come as pain points are, again, too many steps, too many processes, and of course, printing the label is something that e-shoppers do not want to do anymore these days.
And e-tailers are working to make returns less of a pain point. Do you have examples you could share with us, Hervé?
Yes, and I think one of the key focus for the e-retailers is really to minimize also the number of returns. And to do so, they have enhanced their product description. For instance, they do provide the measurement of the model who is wearing a certain size of garment. They are already also providing some more videos on a 360 video of a model, unboxing a parcel, how does it look like, a video on the product description, how this would work in real life, so that consumers have a better look and feel and see, shall I get this product, and this size on one side. Also, they do use more and more data in order to provide more recommendations. Like, for instance, I'm looking at your shoe. If you're wearing a certain shoe size with a certain brand and you buy another brand of the shoe, then they could recommend you that a better size is not the one that you are stating, but another one. Also, the use of technology. If we talk about augmented reality, take this sofa, for instance, you could easily, through your mobile phone, how it could suit into your living room in terms of dimensions, in terms of colors. And one of the key elements also for minimizing, let's say, the returns was to enforce some stricter, let's say, conditions for returns. And especially since 2022, we've seen many large brands embarking into asking for return fees, for instance, or limiting the number of days for returning a product. While also, yes, as I mentioned, always giving more and more information to that consumers return less, because they're aware it's a burden for the consumer, it's a burden also for the retailers. So the area is really to use technology to ease the decision of the consumers.
Thank you. So e-shoppers have more and more expectations over time when it comes to buying online. What are the key assets, you would say, to improve the perceived e-shopping experience?
Well, I would say, based on what we've seen so far, streamlining the experience goes with speed. So everything that can be put in place for fast purchase, for occasional shoppers, maybe without the creation of an account, fast returns, less stages in the process, will streamline the experience. And if I think about the number of e-shoppers who purchase cross-border, for the need of support, for sure, multi-language AI-powered chatbots would be of great help to lift the barriers of language and also of time zone, because it needs to be there when they want it.
Absolutely, and we're going to move on to our next and final chapter, and this calls the gold standards of delivery. And Florian has joined us on set. Hello, Florian.
Hello.
As an expert of out-of-home solutions, you'll be answering some of the upcoming questions. Well, let's talk about deliveries. Based on this study, what are the preferences e-shoppers are going for when it comes to receiving their parcels?
Well, I would say in terms of delivery, flexibility is the name of the game. We have these days half of European e-shoppers who use more than 2 delivery options. So this says a lot about their need for choice and convenience. They want to be able to tailor the delivery. Also, this tailoring of the delivery, if we think back about what Ludmila said, she's using home delivery, she's using out-of-home delivery, means that there need to be different delivery places offered. We are seeing an increase, quite a strong increase of the preference for lockers this year, putting lockers in the second position of preferences in terms of delivery places. And parcel shops very much stable in third place. These preferences are almost the same all across Europe, but we do see a few exceptions, and I'm thinking about the UK, Austria, where we still see safe place delivery, for instance, in the top 3 of the preferences regarding the delivery places.
So, out-of-home is soaring. Is it a global trend, or does it shift from one country to the next, Florian?
It is definitely mainstream overall in Europe and across countries. So if we look at the figure across Europe, and if we add up all options, parcel shops, lockers, retailer store, we see this year 46% of e-shoppers preferring out-of-home in their delivery options. That's 2 points more than the last time, so still growing. But if we take a step back and look even before, it's 15 points more than in 2019. So this trend is massive. Out-of-home has become mainstream. It's maybe the strongest trend we can observe throughout this barometer. And it is indeed true also across countries, as I mentioned. So out of the 22 countries that we surveyed this year, only one has a preference below 30%. That's Ireland. All the others, at least 30% of e-shoppers are using out-of-home. That includes, for example, the UK, who gained 5 points in the preference for out-of-home delivery. Same progression in Spain. And you can see here on the screen some even bigger progressions. In Czech Republic, 7 points more preference for out-of-home delivery, 10 and 11 points in Romania and Bulgaria, and the astonishing growth in Croatia this year, 27 points more preference for out-of-home since 2023. So beware in Ireland, out-of-home adoption can go really fast.
Okay. Lockers and shops. Lockers versus shops, how does it evolve locally?
So what we observe is that it's definitely not locker versus shops, it's lockers alongside shops. So we saw with Carmen, the overall preference for lockers is indeed increasing, but you saw also that parcel shops remain stable at 24% on average in Europe. And if we zoom in on countries where the adoption of locker is even higher, also we observe parcel shops remaining stable, like France, for example, 8 points more preference for lockers. That's really significant. Parcel shops remain preferred at 57% by French e-shoppers. Even bigger in Czech Republic, 18 points more for lockers. That's huge. Shoppers are stable also at 52%. So definitely we observe that those out-of-home solutions are not exclusive, they are complementary. And actually, as Ludmila said, she likes lockers, but I'm pretty sure that when she sells a lot of parcels, she also likes to take 3, 4, 5 parcels and drop them in a parcel shop because, well, you avoid a potential full locker. It takes a minute to scan them with the parcel shop owner. So blending those options is the key.
Thank you, Florian. Hervé, is out-of-home delivery a match for all product categories?
Actually, we've seen an expansion of product categories using out-of-home delivery services. It's a perfect match for fashion, for instance. And we've seen, DIY, small furniture, even pet food using more out-of-home delivery services. And I would like to confirm what Florian says, that if you look at the size of, let's say, home furniture or pet food products, they're pretty big. So they don't fit especially in lockers. So the complementarity of parcel shops, parcel lockers is real, especially across specific product categories.
Do out-of-home delivery solutions match the needs of all international e-shoppers?
They do, and even more actually than the average. You can see here that e-shoppers buying cross-border are using more out-of-home options than the other. You see the difference is quite significant actually, 6 points more, 7 points more for lockers, 6 points more for parcel shops. So what we observe in the end is that the more e-shoppers buy online, the more they tend to prefer out-of-home. The more their behavior is diverse, the more they need options between home and out-of-home. If we focus, for example, on aficionados, those aficionados that are shopping so often, 51% of them prefer out-of-home delivery options versus 46 on average. So the more you buy online, the more you need out-of-home as a solution potentially.
Thank you. A few more questions before we wrap up and turn to your questions. We spoke about preferences. We spoke also about generations. Does this fit for all generations, or is it more for one than the other?
I would say yes and no, in the sense that when it comes to out-of-home, parcel lockers and parcel shops, they have the same power of traction across generations. They are preferred by youngsters and by boomers almost equally. The thing where we see the difference between generations is the preference and the, let's say, the emotional almost connection to home delivery. We see that for X generation and for the boomers, there's still a very, very strong commitment and preference for home deliveries, probably because the doorstep experience is something that is really familiar for them, and there's also, let's admit it, an ease of the experience that comes with it.
Beyond location, in a few words, what are the key criteria to a perfect or near-perfect delivery?
Well, the near-perfect delivery, because perfection does not exist, right, goes beyond just the delivery place. What we see from e-shoppers is that, again, across generations, they want to have real-time information on the parcel. We all want to know, once the parcel gets started on its way to us, where it is. Beyond that, I would say also some value-added options that are really important, especially for home delivery. Being able to choose the slot of the delivery, or at least knowing the slot of the delivery, because it needs to fit into your own agenda. And because we speak about agendas, these can change. So there's also a need for delivery to be flexible, for e-shoppers to be able to reschedule their delivery. So I guess everything that empowers e-shoppers to tailor the delivery to their life habits, to their lifestyle, and to their needs is something definitely expected.
Hervé?
Yeah, and thank you, Carmen, for all those insights, because at Geopost, these results help us to enhance our consumer experience solutions. And I want to take the example of My DPD app, which is available in 16 countries, used by 35 million users. It embeds all those different elements that we could include thanks to those results and could include them over time. So thanks again for these insights. Very valuable for our solutions, but also for the sellers and the consumers in the end.
3 final questions in 3 minutes. That's your challenge. What's the importance of the carrier brand? Does it actually matter in the process?
It does, and with this metric, we score the highest ever level of importance. E-shoppers are very experienced. Now they are no longer, let's say, passive recipients. They express their options and expect a seamless delivery afterwards.
As a conclusion, what is your main take on e-commerce in 2025? Starting with you, Carmen.
For me, it's the maturity of e-commerce. Mature does not mean static. E-commerce is very dynamic. It is reaching the borders of our planet, so it's very global, and it is deeply enrooted in our daily lives. So I think we need to evolve with our e-shoppers, or even faster than our e-shoppers, who are more global, more dynamic, and more business-minded, I would say, than ever.
Thank you, Carmen. Florian, in a nutshell?
On my side, maybe one word, hybrid. We saw, when it comes to delivery, we saw that e-shoppers want hybrid options, so home, out of home, inside, out of home. They like shops and lockers. Across countries, they also like to use out of home and home. And across generation, as Carmen explained before, from the Gen Z to the boomers, they also need various delivery options. So I think to summarize our challenge on the delivery side, Hervé mentioned the challenge of unified commerce for retailers. On our side, I would say our challenge is unified delivery. So again, offering as seamlessly as possible the possibility to go from a home delivery to a parcel shop delivery, actually maybe during the delivery, if you can redirect your parcel to a shop, and then go to a locker and back to home, etc. So that's our job, ensuring unified delivery can happen.
Thank you, Florian. Hervé, your conclusion?
Actually, I think we can support our clients in many, many ways. First, on the domestic deliveries, we have an extensive network with a local flavor. For instance, we can provide cash on delivery in Eastern, Southern Europe, to home and out of home. When it comes to international, we are not only in Europe, we are also in South Africa, Brazil, more recently in Argentina, and also in China. And for our export services, we do embed more and more custom clearance services. When it comes to hybrid network, as you mentioned, we have this out-of-home network, 135,000 parcel shop and parcel lockers to fit, let's say, the different needs of the different generations, but also the different local preferences. When it comes to the digital journey of our consumers, as I mentioned, we have My DP app, which which embeds quite some services like live tracking, like also customer service features, including chatbot assistant. We have also capability to send, to receive parcels through the app, and also we do provide some interactive and personalized features. And it's all being backed by our sustainability approach. We have the objective to be net zero by 2040, which is validated by SBTi. And the latest figures I can share with you is the Q1 results, where our CO2 emissions decreased by 2.5%, which is per parcel a minus 4%, because we are growing number of parcels. And yeah, in a nutshell, this is what we can provide to our clients, and me, my team, and all the business units are here to answer your further questions you may have.
And that's exactly what we're going to do. That is for the key findings and messages we wanted to share with you. Thank you very much for answering my question. Now, let's turn to yours. So to our live audience members, if you have a question, just raise your hand. We'll bring you a microphone. For you to get warmed up, we're going to start with one question we have received from the chat, so I'll forward it to you. You mentioned that e-shoppers now consider up to 19 criteria when making a purchase. Which of these criteria do you think retailers are still underestimating or not addressing well enough?
Obviously, I'm not an e-tailer, but I think the challenge that we all face, carriers and e-tailers, is to answer needs from various generations that sometimes are at the opposite. Bringing customer support by phone and on social media, for example, then giving e-shoppers options of fast purchase without account creation, and at the same time creating the trust for the older generations with an account, with a login, a password, a double check, a triple check of the identity. I think those are definitely the big challenges that everyone is facing nowadays. And in terms of delivery, it's this unified delivery that Florian mentioned that we need to make possible.
Do you agree, gentlemen? Yeah, you do.
Cannot agree more.
Nicely put, yeah.
Okay. Any questions from our live audience? You guys are being shy? Okay, that's it for the moment. Oh, we do have one question in front. We'll bring you a microphone and you can ask your question to our speakers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I trust that sustainability was also covered into this survey. Can you reveal in a nutshell the key, let's say, findings that you have on this topic?
Thank you.
Definitely, sustainability is treated in the survey, and we still see that sustainability matters. If I remember correctly, we have an increase of 2 points of e-shoppers who say that they are more likely to purchase from a website that offers sustainable delivery solutions, for instance. But I think there is a different mindset that we are seeing around sustainability these days. It does not come as a main driver for purchase, but it comes more like a co-benefit. You purchase online, and with the great price that you get, and with the great products that you can access, and presumably the great delivery options that you have, sustainability comes as the cherry on the cake in terms of benefit. But as I said, not necessarily the main driver of purchase.
If I may add, when we look at the rise of C2C, the main reason for going to C2C is to save money, but the second reason is to be part of the circular economy, especially into the fashion and high-tech. So I think this development of C2C is also part of these more sustainability concerns of the consumers also.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your question. The next one we've received from the chat is this one. About social media, we mentioned Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, and everything. Are there big differences between countries? What are the trends you can monitor and analyze from different countries in Europe? Do they all use social media the same way, with the same intensity?
The same way, yes. Same intensity, definitely not. We see that in Eastern Europe, for instance, Bulgaria, Romania, Czech Republic, Croatia, Slovenia, we have much more users, e-shoppers who are already buying on social media, not just Gen Z, but even the older generations, than in Western Europe. I think in Eastern Europe, we kind of moved to this stage of social media immediately when we had, I said we because I'm coming obviously from Eastern Europe, when we got our smartphones. So it's a kind of a built-in, and buying on social media is easier and more frequent in Eastern Europe than in Western Europe.
Thank you, Carmen. Any other question from our audience? No, we'll move on to one from the chat then. We mentioned out-of-home deliveries, of course, and we've seen that it's clearly gaining ground. Do you think lockers and pickup points will eventually overtake home delivery as the default choice for most e-shoppers, Florian?
Not an easy bet to make right now, so I'll save my bet for the end of the answer. What we can safely say is that the trend of rising out-of-home preference is there to stay. So it will continue progressing as we see young generations using more and more, as we see e-shoppers using more the internet, using more out-of-home. The C2C also frenzy, or almost, is an important factor. Also, as we, the carriers, are making our network stronger, improving the proximity we offer to shoppers. So I think we can safely say again that out-of-home preference will continue growing. Now, this is where my personal feeling comes into play. You look at the Gen Z, for example, behaviors towards home delivery. So Carmen said they prefer home delivery less than their older, but this Gen Z generation at some point will leave their parents, or maybe will kick them out, I don't know. So then they'll have to settle, and then their behavior will change. So for me, it would be super interesting to watch how Gen Z, when they get as old as Gen X or millennials, how their behavior change. And my bet is that we probably get to a balance between home and out of home, or around a balance, but not more.
All right, thank you, Florian, for this bet. Let's make another one while taking this final question. We have 2 minutes. You mentioned, Carmen, that you made some bets 2 years ago and you were right on everything. Now, if we look ahead to the next few years, how do you expect the e-shopper's journey to evolve in the coming years? In 2 minutes.
Well, in 30 seconds, I think we just look at Gen Z and we see where the trend is growing. Personally, as a mother, I tend to always want to prove to my son that I'm not that old-fashioned. So I try from now and again the new things that pop. And I think, anyways, the experience will be streamlined more and more. The speed will be there, and AI is already part of our lives. So I think we are going the way that Gen Z are opening.
Thank you. Hervé, Florian, how do you feel about the evolution of the customer journey online?
I think speed in different ways, and customer service, the need for this, the need for information, the need also for deliveries. Speed is a common denominator, I think, and we'll see more and more over time, as long as Gen Z will have more purchasing power and be a much bigger part of the e-commerce. Yeah.
Thank you. Florian?
And flexibility, I think, across all generations in the future, being able to jump from one option to another, from one category to another. Again, Gen Z, by the way, at some point they will buy their own food also, we can hope. So this will change also. So jumping, making sure seamlessly all e-shoppers can use different options from social media to the web, to a shop, to a home, etc. That's for me the key trend that would be super interesting to continue watching in the future.
Well, thank you very much. I'm afraid that's all the time we have. So as we are wrapping up this live, let me remind you that all the information we shared with you will be made available to you shortly alongside the replay of this program. So check your inbox because you'll hear from Geopost in no time. Thanks a lot, Carmen, Hervé, Florian, for being such wonderful guests. A big thank you to everyone at Geopost, Cegicom, the studio, everyone who made this live possible. Thank you very much. Thank you to our live audience. You guys were great. Thank you very much for being here. And of course, thank you for watching. See you soon with Geopost. Bye-bye.